Okay, so we're going to pick up where we left off. This third video is not going to be very long, but we talked about the fact that the U.S. government is broken into three branches. And you have the legislative branch, which makes the laws. And what happens is a bill starts in the House of Representatives. It goes to committee. It happens when the representatives are in committee and they present a bill and they argue it and hash it out. And if the committee decides that it's worth sending it out to the floor, then the committee will all sign on it and it will go out to the House floor. And then from the House floor, it will be voted on. And if it passes the House, then it goes up to the Senate. And then the Senate has to vote. If the Senate votes and approves it, then it becomes a law. However, there are two checks that the law has to pass in order to actually be recorded on the books as being a federal law. First off, the president has to agree to it. If he sees that the law is coming up, before he puts his signature to it, he can always veto it. And typically what happens with laws is it's usually a bundle full of compromises. Usually the representative will say, well, this is the law I want. And they go around to the other congressman and say, would you support my law? And the other congressmen say, well, I'll support your law if you will include this in your bill. And so then all of a sudden the bill becomes thicker and thicker and thicker as they include these other issues in it. And so if the president doesn't like the law itself or he doesn't like a part of the law, he can veto it. Now, obviously, it can go back to the Congress, and the Congress can override a presidential veto with 2/3 vote. Then you also have the other check of the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court can review the law and hold it up against the standard of the Constitution. And if the law as it's written violates the Constitution, then the Supreme Court can then can also declare it unconstitutional, which means that it now is removed from the books. So you have the executive branch who takes the laws and they enforce them. It's the president who is the commander in chief, and he is the one who ensures that that these laws are followed. And basically, um, he's kind of like, not necessarily, I don't want to say the police behind it, but he ensures that the country follows the laws by typically, denying funding, denying other federal rights if a state decides not to enforce a certain federal law. Then you have the judicial branch, and that interprets the laws. It looks, again, compares the law as it is written to the light of the Constitution. And if it does not reflect the Constitution back, then it's declared unconstitutional and it is thrown out and cannot be considered a federal law. You have the checks and balances system. And we talked about this. It kind of goes in hand with the separation of power that we talked about under Montesquieu, in that each branch keeps the other branches from overstepping in its duties. And you have that checks and balances so that, again, everything that no one branch has power over the other branches, and the other branches have to be answerable. You already see right now that former President Trump is being impeached by Congress, and therefore that is a way of Congress holding the president accountable for his actions, what he did or did not do on that day. So each branch has one or more powers that limits the powers of the other branches. So those are the two key things under checks and balances. Number 4, a federal system. Under the Articles of Confederation, the states acted as individual nations. But under the Constitution, we now have a federal system which divides the power between state and national. And actually, the power under the state becomes even more divided because it goes down to township, municipality, city, county, depending on the level of need, depends on what level of government that need gets appointed to. So if you look at the way state of Delaware is run, we have Newcastle County government, but underneath the Newcastle County government, I live in the city of Newport, and Newport has its own mayor and has its own police department. Right next door to Newport is Ellesmere, and Ellesmere has its own mayor and its own council. Wilmington is underneath Newcastle County, and it has its mayor and its city council, and each one of these all have their own police departments. So depending on, the level of need is where is will determine which level of government is given that assignment. Like school, at one time schooling was on a local level, but once they made it a free public education, it was elevated to the state level, and so now public education is overseen by the state, so that every school across the state is held to the same standard. Um, Now you see the issue with the police violence and what caused the riots in the summer. There is a push to actually federalize the police forces, so again, that they are all held to a similar standard, um, or they're all held to the same standard and not different based on their level of training. So that's how you have the breakdown of the government. That's going to conclude this video. I'll post another video tomorrow, and you're coming up on a reading assignment and another 2 set of questions and another quiz, but I'll list those all out in the Google Classroom. Again, Howard, if you have any questions, please let me know. And I will also be giving you 1 or 2 workbook assignments here shortly. So let me know if you have any questions, and if not, I will talk to you tomorrow.